All right, good afternoon, everyone. See people are coming in now. As you're coming in, feel free to post in the chat your name, what state you're coming from, and what organization. And we'll get started in a couple minutes. Okay, seeing things slow down a little bit, maybe not. We can get started. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Billy Cerullo. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a housing advocacy organizer on the NLIHC field team. And so thank you for joining. This is the 10th webinar in our series for Our Homes, Our Votes. And today's webinar is focusing on celebrating civic holidays. So if you're tuning into the Our Homes, Our Votes webinar series for the first time today, I encourage you to check out our archive of our past webinars, which are on our website. And we'll post the link to that in the chat. So feel free to keep introducing yourselves in the chat. Again, put your name, state, where you're calling in from, organization, all that good stuff. So in terms of the agenda for today, again, today's webinar topic is celebrating the civic holidays. And so in case you don't already know, civic holidays are nationwide, nonpartisan days of action to strengthen and celebrate our country's democracy. And thousands of nonprofits, schools, businesses, local governments, and other organizations unite each year to promote civic participation through the 4 civic holidays, which are National Voter Registration Day, National Voter Education Week, Vote Early Day, and then Election Hero Day. So this webinar will cover how to plan an effective civic holidays activation or action, and the resources available from national partners to support this work. So our panel today features Amanda Hollowell, Managing Director of National Organizing at When We All Vote, Cheyenne Sapp, Campaign Director of National Voter Registration Day, and Bryce Bennett, Executive Director of Vote Early Day. But before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items. So first and foremost, this webinar is recorded, and we're going to distribute the recording and links in next week's edition of our Friday email newsletter. I know normally we do it the same week as the webinar. This time it's actually going to be next week. And then that newsletter is the connection. And so the recording is also going to be posted on the NLIHC YouTube channel by the end of, again, next week. Something else to note, we have closed captioning enabled. So thank you very much to our captioner for being here today and for helping us. Also, please ask questions using the Q&A feature throughout the webinar. I know it's normal for a lot of folks to post in the chat, but with, let's see, what are we up to now? 183 participants, it can be hard to track in the chat all of the amazing questions that you have. So feel free to continue to post in the chat, but if you have a burning question for our panelists, please use that Q&A feature. And at the end, after they've each presented, we'll go through some of those questions and they'll be able to answer them. And again, speaking of the chat, we ask that everyone engage thoughtfully and respectfully in the chat, which should go without saying. And we like to say living by the platinum rule, which is treat others the way they want to be treated, even if that's different from the way you would want to be treated yourself. And last but not least, a very important reminder that Our Homes, Our Votes is 100% nonpartisan, meaning that we don't endorse or favor specific candidates or political parties. The goal is to build the voting power of low-income renters so we can hold all elected officials accountable, when they are prioritizing housing justice, or so they prioritize housing justice. So I'm going to now kick it over to our panelists. The first to present today is Amanda Hollowell. And without further ado, I will kick it over to you, Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for this. I'm going to try to run through a couple of slides. My name is Amanda Hollowell. I'm the managing director here at When We All Vote. I oversee 4 of our programming facets for national organizing, which is our high school program from 9th through 12th graders, our partnership program, where we have a myriad of different partnership opportunities, our distributed volunteer campaign, and then I also help with our Party at the Polls, which I will briefly talk about. I'm going to share my screen just so you're able to see. Oh, I can't share my screen at the time. If not, I can just kind of go through it.
You should try to share your screen now. It should work now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is just kind of like getting involved with When We All Vote. When We All Vote was created in 2018 by our former First Lady, Mrs. Michelle Obama. Our edict is we're trying to change the culture around voting, increase voter participation in each and every election, and close the race and age gap around voting, and of course, fight against voter suppression. We try to give ways to get involved in so many different ways. We use National Voter Registration Day as our catalyst to really work through a National Voter Registration week. And we just did a national training with over 2,000 people on how to engage in this. So yes, National Voter Registration Day is the 17th. We got a lot of feedback from our volunteers that, because they are volunteers and they're working for free, they would love more time to host these events. And so we extend the celebration for a whole week. We ask people to register voters with us. And then we ask people to take this energy and this excitement that they had at this call to go back to their community. We provided a full-on step-by-step guide that has all of our voter registration resources. We only do digital voter registration. We do not do paper, but we do provide QR codes, tools, recorded trainings, and printable flyers. And we email this out to everyone who attends our trainings after these calls. We also offer a free volunteer merge kit. So once the person or the volunteer registers their event on our Mobilize, we send them a kit to supplement about 100 pieces. So it's buttons, it's stickers, it's postcards, it's placards, and then of course they get a free When We All Vote t-shirt for hosting their event. We also ask them to sign up and host their events on our Mobilize because we try to list them as one of the upcoming events that we have and to make sure people see their events and can attend it. This also helps us track like who is working out in the community and where, and it also helps the event host, just kind of send back and forth messages to their attendees. From the promoting of the event, we teach them how to share their unique event link, how to send it out via email and text and social media. And then we also ask them to snap photos and tag When We All Vote, which then we actually amplify and share on our socials as well. We got this new tool just for National Voter Registration Day. It's called Building Your Voting Squad, which really is just a personalized voting registration portal where the people can actually use it for themselves and they'll get the link with their name. This is just the 3-step process that we say it's so easy. You're going to go to weall.vote/voting squad to start it. So you just register, you send your email, and then in a few minutes later, you'll get this email that says like weall.vote/Amanda Hollowell. And that'll be your own personalized portal that you can send out to your friends to either do a challenge or a compete and have them check or register to vote. This is what it looks like. It's on our website. This is what the page they would come to, and then they would just fill out the information on the form, and then they could actually see themselves on the volunteer board. And I'll show that forward. And then, once we ended this training, we talked about the opportunities moving forward. So it's not just National Voter Registration Day. There's a bunch of opportunities that we have coming up. One that we really love is that our Party at the Polls program is a early voting program that we provide dollars to nonprofit organizations to host early parties by early voting events by early vote sites in October. It's around $2,500. Those applications are still open. We are in the states of Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. We will also open this up to general volunteers, but they won't receive any dollars. They'll just only be able to get a kit from us, as you can see the signs and the placards. And then, they can also register their event and we'll promote it as well. And then now we have a few different sweepstakes that we're launching this week. First, our first sweepstake is you get to meet Mrs. Obama in Las Vegas. And this is a volunteer action that we've put around the national holidays. So we want you to host a voter registration event for National Voter Registration Day, or sign up to host a party at the poll, which then it gets you to qualify to meet our founder, Mrs. Obama. We also have another voter registration activation around the Atlanta Dream. So we're asking you to sign up to be a volunteer, take action with us around these civic holidays that are coming up, and then you can get a VIP opportunity and transportation to meet the Atlanta Dream in the Chicago Sky on September 17th. And then we have one more for the younger volunteers that we have for the iHeart Music Festival. We will be launching this as a paid trip to go to Vegas again to see the iHeart Music Festival on September 20th and 19th and 20th. And if you guys have questions about our programming or how we celebrate national holidays, I am sure to open, but that's what I have now.
Great. Thanks so much, Amanda. And we're now going to move to our second panelist, Cheyenne Sapp. So Cheyenne, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Billy, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having us. As Amanda mentioned, we are coming up on National Voter Registration Day. So here we go. So save the date because it is in 2 weeks exactly from today, Tuesday, September 17th. Many of you who have dropped your names in the chat are already signed up as partners. So thank you so much. We're really excited to have you. I'm going to also drop the link in the chat now because today is actually the deadline. So if you don't sign up today, there's no guarantee that you will receive posters and stickers. So you have until the end of day today to sign up if you haven't already. So let's get into a quick overview of the presentation. So the 6 rules for becoming a partner on National Voter Registration Day are super simple. You must be nonpartisan. You must remain inclusive. Also be informed about your state's voter registration laws because your community will see you as a trusted resource. So it's really important that you have the most accurate and up-to-date information and resources. You want to remain non-transactional and you want to be vote ready. So what it means to be vote ready is fully equipped with the resources, ready to go, answer any questions. We have created all of the resources for you around National Voter Registration Day, including tips and talking points. We also have our state-by-state voter registration guides. So we want to make it super easy for you to be able to go out and answer questions while you're registering voters. But most of all, we want you to have a good time and enjoy yourself. So have fun. Next slide, please. So our goals for this year, we've already hit them. So we're really excited about that. And our partners are the local organizations that will be out there registering voters. So as of today, we have over 5,000 organizations signed up all across the country. So thank you so much. And our goal for the year is to register about 750,000 new voters on or around National Voter Registration Day on the 17th. I've included here the QR code, so if you don't click the link, you can just scan the code with your phone to sign up because today, again, is the deadline. So please sign up by the end of today and you'll receive your posters and stickers via mail. For those of you who have already signed up, great. If you haven't received your posters and stickers yet, you should be receiving a tracking link that will give you the information on when they'll be delivered. And if you have any issues, you can email us. I'll drop our email into the chat. It's info@nationalvoterregistrationday.org. And then lastly, some ways to participate. The slide is a little jumbled here, but there are many ways that you can participate in National Voter Registration Day. Remember that this is a day to not only register people to vote, but to remind them to update their voter registration status. So use that messaging and hold on to that because any voter that you pass or any person that you pass in the street or comes over to the table is a great opportunity to engage them, either to register them to vote or to check their status, or if they're not eligible, that's fine as well. But here are some ways to participate. So you can encourage local community members to sign on as partners. Again, today is the deadline, so you'll have to do that very, very quickly. But also you can cross promote on social media. You can host a voter registration drive in your community, which can be tabling or anywhere you're able to set up. But then you can also just make sure that you are taking advantage of the resources that are available and sharing the posters digitally or around the offices that you have access to. Next slide. And then lastly, we have one more webinar coming up on September 11th, 6 days to vote ready. So that's a last minute rally for National Voter Registration Day. We'd love to see you there. You'll be able to hear from other partners on some big ideas that they have and some big plans to give you some inspiration and motivation. But it is just a last minute rally to remind you of the resources and everything that's available, including talking points for the day, so that you feel well equipped and excited and confident to go out and register voters. And we also have other webinars up on our website. So if you're interested in having more information, you can always go to the website to look at more resources. And that is it. I have dropped in my colleague's information here, Alan, who many of you have corresponded with. So that's his email if you have any questions. But we're super excited to have you as partners. Thank you guys so much for your passion and commitment to this effort. And we'll see you on Tuesday, September 17th. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheyenne. And last but not least, I'll hand it over to Bryce and Rahini.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bryce Bennett, Executive Director here at Vote Early Day. I'm going to share my screen with you in just a second. Awesome. And as part of this, I'm going to share a little bit about some of the other civic holidays that are celebrating as well. Some of the other opportunities after the exciting work you'll see on in early September here on National Voter Registration Day. So give me just one moment. All right, so you already heard from Cheyenne about the exciting work that's happening on National Voter Registration Day on September 17th, but there are some other exciting holidays that will follow with National Voter Registration. Sorry, I've been talking all day today. National Voter Education Week, Vote Early Day, and Election Hero Day. Each of these days builds off of the others. So as people are first registered, that gives them a chance to get into the system and ready to start taking action. Following that, they go through the education phase, learning about what's on their ballot and how they can engage in the work. Obviously, Vote Early Day is the day where we want people to cast their ballots, the critical piece of our democracy that allows people to share their voice. And finally, a day of celebration for all those amazing people who make this work possible. So it's a chance to celebrate how you like in a way that is unique and individual to your community, showing the power to mobilize voters. You all are more of a trusted voice in your community than any of us at the national level could ever hope to be. So we really want to lean in on the expertise and credibility that you bring to this work, and also add value to the work that you're doing by being part of a national movement, providing resources from organizations like ours to make sure that the celebrations you have are especially impactful and effective. So I'm going to talk a little bit about National Voter Education Week and the work that they do that's happening this year on October 7th through the 11th. It's a full week of education and excitement that helps ensure that people know exactly what's on their ballot. There's research from Ideas 42 that shows that new voters in particular often overestimate the difficulty of the registration process, may be insecure about the level of political knowledge that they have, don't think concretely about the voting process, and may not know, it may not link the political participation and the everyday experiences that they have, but they know the trusted people in their community, like each and every one of you that's on the call today, can be a helpful way to ensure that they change, or they can experience change and create that change. The 5 big main calls to action that happened during this week are encouraging people to register to vote, get to know their ballot, make a plan to vote, and understand the voting process. And they share that with their friends and family, making sure that it's not just one person that gets educated this week, but by the process of talking and communicating with each other, this grows and becomes an even bigger movement. Next, I want to share a little bit about Vote Early Day. This is my organization, one that we're especially proud of, that is a nonpartisan movement of media companies, businesses, nonprofits, election administrators, creatives, working to ensure that every American has the tools to share their voice and vote early. So, big question that you might have, what is Vote Early Day? It brings together people from all walks of life, started by MTV in 2020 as a day of action and celebration. It's a collaboration between all of those different organizations that I just mentioned that goes a long way to ensuring that no matter where people are or what area of their life they're in, we can meet people exactly where they are, with the goal of making Election Day the last day to vote. And this year it's being celebrated on October 29th. So very soon, we look forward to celebrating Vote Early Day with you. It's an opportunity to bring together people in a fun and creative way in your community, to encourage people at their early voting sites, at their ballot drop-off locations, to engage in fun and exciting, effective, impactful events that help people share their voices by voting early. And we do everything we can to support you and your partners by giving you toolkits that have social media posts, graphics, press outreach tools, email templates, printable swag, truly everything under the sun. So our deadline isn't today. So you'll still have a little bit of time to sign up for Vote Early Day, but it will be happening soon. So make sure that you sign up for this holiday and all the civic holidays to get that swag in the mail, things like your posters, your stickers, and more, and other opportunities to join this movement. So I'm going to turn it over to Ro to talk about Election Hero Day.
Thanks so much, Bryce. And thank you to everyone here. We're so excited to see 230 people on this call. That's amazing. And the power of NLIHC. My name is Rohini Nambiar. I go by Ro, and I'm representing Team Election Hero Day. We're so excited to be here. Election Hero Day is a nonpartisan national day of recognition that was created in 2020 to show gratitude to the thousands of local volunteers, poll workers, and election office staff who were the driving force in ensuring a safe and accessible election process during a moment of crisis related to COVID-19 back in 2020. Go to the next slide, please. So who is an election hero? We're talking about Election Hero Day. So this election heroes are state and territorial officials, local election clerks, election staff, poll workers, and everyone who keeps our democracy running. These are your neighbors, friends, family, community members, everyday people who want to play an active role in our democratic process. Can go to the next slide. So our mission is simple. For the long-term success of our American elections, it is critical that we show up with gratitude and appreciation to help retain our neighbors, our community members who power our elections nationwide. Next slide, please. So how can you help? Our team EHD could not be possible, could not do any of the work without the help of partners like you all. That includes nonprofits, businesses, leaders, brands, and public officials. We have a menu of options in how you can partner with Election Hero Day. Election Hero Day takes place the day before the actual election day. So it's November 4th, that Monday. And for the first time ever, we are piloting in-person activations and in-person celebrations. We're super excited about this. I dropped the link in the chat to sign up to be a partner with all civic holidays. So go to that link and sign up to be a partner with Election Hero Day, because tomorrow we are releasing our partner toolkit. Yay, everyone get excited. This is going to be super amazing. We want everyone to use this partner toolkit as guidelines. As you can see on the screen now, here are some examples of partners all across the nation activate for Election Hero Day in the past. And like I said, and like Bryce mentioned as well, our partner toolkits and our information are guidelines. You know your community best. Just because an activation idea wasn't mentioned in any of our information doesn't mean you can't do it. We are encouraging you because you know your community best. You can go to the next slide. And like I said, stay tuned. We have some amazing new graphics coming out. Make sure you follow us on social media. Before this year, Election Hero Day was primarily celebrated on social media and newsletters. And I'm actually just looking right now at NLIHC's last post about Election Hero Day last year. So love to see you guys representing and showing up and showing out for our election heroes. Can go to the next slide and stay connected with us. You can reach me at info@electionheroday.org, and definitely make sure you sign up as a partner at electionheroday.org so you can get that toolkit directly in your inbox tomorrow, I promise. You can go to the next slide. And yeah, just thank you to everyone here. Thank you to our election heroes. These are the folks that really keep our elections running and power our democracy. Can go to the next slide. So just wanted to share from all of us at the Civic Holidays, the possibilities are endless. We're so thankful. NVRD, National Voter Education Week, Vote Early Day, Election Hero Day. We're so thankful for you all. Your organization, campus, or business is free to celebrate however we want because you know your community best. And it's our job as the Civic Holidays to support and uplift your work. And thank you guys so much.
Great. Thanks, Bryce. Thanks, Ro. Thanks to all of our panelists here today. Before we move into Q&A, I want to remind everyone of the opportunity to sign up as a Civic Holidays partner and encourage others in your network to do so as well. So we'll put the link to that in the chat so you can sign up. So I noticed we have some questions in the chat and some in the Q&A as well. So if you have a burning question, please post it. It would be easiest if you posted it in the Q&A as opposed to the chat, just so I can track and make sure every question's answered. So the first one that I see here, which I think can go to anybody. I live in an area where approximately 72% of my community are registered voters. The biggest issue we face is low voter turnout. We're open to ideas, suggestions to increase voter turnout. Please help. So any of you have suggestions specifically on turnout? I know we're talking about registration a lot, but on the topic of turnout, is there a connection between the registration and the actual, turnout to the polls? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that because we're at Voter Relay Day eager to bridge that gap between the exciting work of registering people and actually getting them to turn out. And I would invite people to think about encouraging your friends and family to sign up to vote by mail. We know that when people vote by mail, it is one of the most profound ways that we can increase voter turnout. We know that while 70% of the American population is currently registered to vote, only about 50% people actually turn out. So, but when people are signed up to vote by mail, they turn out at a very, very high level. And then also doing the work through celebrations like ours, through parties at the polls, through hosting events in your community to make this fun and exciting and engaging for folks, because for so many folks out there, it feels off-putting or scary or trepidatious with the nature of politics being as nasty and critical as it sometimes can be. So anything that we can do in our communities to lower the barrier for entry to our democracy goes a long way to ensuring that more people actually cast their ballots.
Great. Thank you so much. And I noticed Shainika posted 2 questions, so I'm going to kind of combine the two because I think they're somewhat related. The first part of the 2-parter, can homeless people participate? Can they vote? Second part, can anyone vote who has been incarcerated?
I'm happy to throw my 2 cents here, but I'm happy to pass this on to other folks as well. The question about folks who are experiencing homelessness, can they register to vote? In almost every state across the nation that I'm aware of, the answer is yes. There just has to be one place they designate as the place that they are going to register to vote from. So if that's a shelter, they can register at the shelter. If that's a friend's house that they've been staying with, they can register there. There's a lot of different options, and the folks at the county clerk's office are going to be the best resource for you about what those options look like for your city, for your county, for your state. There are different rules when it comes to people who have experienced the criminal justice system about what they're able to do in their state. So you're going to have to look up your state by state rules on that front, because while some states, as soon as you leave incarceration, you're able to register and vote again, some you have to go through a process to get your rights back, and some unfortunately just don't offer the ability to get those rights back once you have come out of incarceration. So it's just a state by state situation.
I would also just add to that, those folks who are experiencing houselessness or are reentry, usually their biggest challenge is their IDs. And so most states now are requiring some stringent IDs to use to be able to vote. We use a partner, and I know everyone on the call does too, it's called Vote Writers. They're pretty amazing at helping people get voter IDs and really explaining the laws each by state by state by state on their website. It's called votewriters.org. I encourage you to go to that website. That can really break down a lot of these processes, especially about the IDs that these folks need in order to vote.
Thank you both. Another question that I think is super important, Vanessa, you just posted this. Any advice for navigating voter suppression tactics around voting? We don't have early voting and mail-in ballots. Have to have a very good reason. So everyone has to vote in person on election day. This, of course, impacts voter turnout. So any advice or any insight into voter suppression tactics around the country, or, I know it also probably looks different state to state.
Yeah, I'm happy to step in here because I live in Georgia, which is the crown jewel of voter suppression tactics in the voting process. But I would say more than anything, get educated about what your state guidelines are. There are a lot of organizations who are working on the ground, sharing this information about about what does voter suppression look like. But I think more than anything, there is an organization called that uses a phone number that you should use, which is 1-866-OUR-VOTE, which is an election protection hotline. So if there's any questions that you might have, or say they handed you a provisional ballot, but you were like, no, I'm allowed to vote here, or something like that, even up until you go vote, this is the best site to get those real formal answers about what does voter suppression look like in your state, and how do you protect yourself as a voter going to go vote. Also, there's one thing I really, really want to say is, as we were talking about the lines, but the increased enthusiasm of what's happening now around the country, there might be an uptick of people showing up to the polls. You guys, the ballots are going to be very long this year. Please, please, please encourage the folks that you're talking to in the community to look up their ballot beforehand and make a plan to vote. Transportation is going to be a challenge. Where these early voting locations might be will probably be some challenges, as well as where will voting locations be on the day. But also there will be some very amendment based or constitution based, and some very not accessible language on these ballots, as well as way too many candidates. So please, please, please really encourage people to be prepared to go vote and reading this information beforehand. Even maybe setting up a forum or a discussion moment or a community meeting to get people educated about what could be potentially on their ballot this year.
Yeah, I also just want to jump in and share, Amanda, everything you said, right on point as always. We work with a partner, Civic Holidays Election Hero Day, Pizza to the Polls, and I'll drop their link in the chat as well. Whenever there's a long line and you have to stand there and you have to bear it out, if you feel like the people around you are leaving or dropping off, you can definitely contact Pizza to the Polls, and they will work to send free pizza to the polls wherever you are. So always know that that's a resource, especially to get people to stay in line and wait it out.
I see here another question that I think gets asked a lot and is important about with the political climate being what it is, folks feeling particularly disengaged or not wanting to engage in voting or in the the politics as it is right now. What advice do you have, in this question in the chat asking this, what advice do you have to engage in particular young people in this process?
I can jump in here. I used to work with youth voters in New York City, and they are a very interesting group. I'll tell you that, a very honest group. But what they were most engaged around are when you make the issues more personal to them. So if you take a big issue or a big role like the president and drill it down to local more local examples like city council, maybe attorneys general, etc. And then you start to help them connect what their issues are in their communities to what election officials oversee. That's where you see the interest start to build. And you have to take into consideration that a lot of times youth are not having these types of conversations in school or even at home. Many times their parents are not voters, or they're a voter that comes out every 4 years. So they're maybe not as engaged in their community. So take that into consideration and maybe start from a very small granular example, and try to like build it up. There's also the talking point that there's about 80,000 positions on the ballot this year. So it's much larger than just presidential. We are voting down ballot. And those positions that you're talking to them about, especially as it relates to the issues within their community, are going to be on the ballot. So encourage them to think a little bit larger about how these issues connect to these election official positions as a way to kind of open up the conversation.
Yeah, Amanda, I see your hand. And Bryce afterwards.
Yep. We're finding with our high school program as well, when we talk to these students about what the biggest challenges is, it's going to be like for a lot of students, it's transportation. A lot of students who don't have families who are actively engaged in the democracy process, like how are they going to leave school to go vote? How do they get to the polls to go vote after school? I know all of us work with Lyft and Lime, who provide those codes to get those to those folks, which I would say students are the ones who need them the most. I know with our high school program, we funded some school districts to rent buses to take large amounts of students to go vote during early voting and election day. And so I would say, that's the biggest thing. Also, don't vote shame young voters. People have a tendency to talk down to the youth vote and say like, this is your right, people die for it. And then using the historical context of how we all got our voting rights as a way to vote shame them. Folks, it is hard to vote as a young person, period. They don't know the rules about going to get off. Some need babysitters, or like, how do you take off from your job? We're talking also about the non-traditional student that's at the community college, or the older high school student that's turning 18. It's like, how do I break out of school to go vote? What hours are the polling locations? So I think it's more so really thinking about what are the barriers these young people have to go vote before you talk about it's your right, it's your duty with them. Like, oh, you needed this? Oh, awesome. Here's a service I can do that. I know Ride to Share has been an amazing organization that's been bringing people in to offer volunteer. So they volunteer, basically it's like Uber for voting. But on top of that, there'll be a lot of like codes that'll be shared out in the universe as well. But yeah, I think trying to ask them what is stopping them from voting versus the you ought to vote is always the best way to start.
Yeah, and just wanted to quickly add that there was a study that came out a few years ago that I love to cite in questions like this, where they asked young people who hadn't cast a ballot what were the reasons why. And the two things that came up are really not the things that I so often hear discussed. One of them, something that Amanda just really touched on extremely well, was people said, I didn't know how. And so often for a first-time voter, that's a real barrier for a lot of us who've been voting for a long time or just really are entrenched in the system of our democracy and know all this stuff. You're like, well, how could you not know how? It's a simple process. But for first-time voters, this is a real challenge. The second one that really caught me off guard and continues to catch me off guard is them saying, no one ever asked me to. And I think that really speaks to the shared community impact that we all have to find time to do for the folks around us. We need to make sure that we are talking with people and expressing, not only the importance of it, but the fact that this is something that you, as somebody who is entrenched and experienced and connected to this community, is asking them to do and be part of, so that they too can be part of this global democracy that we're all part of.
No, thank you all very much. I want to circle back to something that you were saying, Cheyenne, and I think it kind of connects to a question that was posed in the Q&A and one that was kind of similar in the chat. When you were talking about particular stances on policy and also ballot items, where can folks find information about where candidates stand on particular issues? Not in the context of our space here, I think specifically when we're talking about housing, but also just in general, what advice do you have for the folks in this room, but then also in their networks, making sure that they know where to go to actually find this information?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this information is actually very hard to find, which I think is something that we should communicate and be transparent about when we speak to voters. There are guides that are created kind of like city by city or state by state, but accountability is a big piece here, right? Because what candidates run on may be different from what they are elected on and what they start to do when they're in office. So, if guides are not available locally, I would say that the best advice is for engaged constituents or constituents who want to be engaged or want to know more to go out and speak to these candidates to find out not only who's running for office, but where they're speaking, what types of communities are they speaking to, and then ask them those questions there to kind of get a better understanding of where they stand on these key issues. I did used to do a voting guide in New York City, and it was very difficult to get candidates to put answers on paper. So if that is what you're running up against and you want these answers, then go ask them in person is definitely my best advice.
Go ahead. I don't know if Bryce was gonna say, he's probably gonna say it, but I'll say, okay. I was gonna say, there's a lot of services too, like ballotready.org, even though they exchange for your email. But I think they do the most easiest and comprehensive way of really getting people the way of what the candidate says. What I do like about their site over other sites is they explain the position. And that is so important. Like, I love Ballotpedia, but Ballotpedia is not an entry-level accessible site for the first-time voter or just for like the sporadic voter. But Ballot Ready does a really good job at like really breaking it down and bringing it to normalize for people to understand what they're about to vote for.
And I do want to note, thank you, Rogues. That was going to be my next question. Can you put the link in the chat? Ro, thank you for doing that. I see another question here, kind of going back to engaging young or younger folks. And I think on the topic of obstacles that might be in the way, and in this case, maybe unique obstacles, what should those students that are away at college do to make sure they are able to vote?
Just say that I used to do a lot of organizing on college campuses, and we would do big voter registration drives. And I think it's about a conversation with them about where they want to make this decision at, because both of them are valid decisions. And there's unfortunately a lot of folks out there that want to spew a lot of misinformation about the fact that college students can vote in one place or another. But the truth is that because the college experience is going to be so much of your life and you're going to be there for a long amount of time, except for a few states with particular residency issues, in almost every place you can decide, I want to register at the college where I'm learning and growing as a student, or I can register and request an absentee ballot for the place that I call home back in my home state and my home community. But either way, making sure that you are registered and update with your information. And if you are going to be registered at a location that's not where you're going to get your ballot in October and November or September, for those of us, for those of you who are in places like North Carolina who started with their early voting process later this week, make sure that your absentee ballot is well set up so that you can get that ballot to you and back in a short enough amount of time.
And I'd also just add to that, to kind of piggyback off of the point I was making earlier, we shouldn't assume that college students know where they want to vote or where it matters more. So that may be a conversation you should be prepared to have with them, because sometimes they may not know how to answer that question, or if they live in a battleground state or what a battleground state even is. Let's assume that civics has not been introduced to everyone, and just prepare, like Bryce said, to go into that conversation with a little bit more knowledge of like how to approach them.
And just really quickly, I wanted to add, I see something in the chat, somebody needs to ask about overseas voters. They have entirely different options under a that your Secretary of State has to provide ballots earlier to them than anyone else. So overseas voters, military voters get a special deadlines when it comes to getting their ballots overseas. So if you know somebody in that situation, make sure to get in contact with them and let them get in contact with their Secretary of State or Chief Election Officer for their state so that they can get that set up in the near future. And I see a great link posted by Cheyenne. So that's perfect.
So as we're coming up to transition to our closing. I think we have a few more minutes, I think, to still go through Q&A. Just a reminder, if you have a question, if you could put it in the Q&A, strictly because it's easier to track, but also I remember reading some really good questions in the chat and I can't find them now. So if you could put them in the Q&A, if you asked a question in the chat and it was not answered, please put it in the Q&A and I'd be happy to ask it. I did find one though. Where can I register to get the materials for Vote Early Day? And I kind of want to expand that to each of you. So Amanda, Cheyenne, Ro, Bryce, everybody. Just in general, when it comes to toolkits, when it comes to information, what are the best ways to interact with your organizations and to get that info?
I just included the link to sign up for Vote Early Day in the chat. It's just voteearlyday.org/get-involved. Would love to have each and every one of you sign up to celebrate with us on October 29th this year. And I'll also give a big shout out to civicholidays.org, which Rose shared with you earlier, where you can sign up for all 4 of the civic holidays all at one time. And you'll get the information about all the different tools that are available to partners there as well.
Yeah, I'll drop that link again in the chat. But feel free to use that. And then each civic holiday has their own website. So please definitely, if you're interested in some specifics about NBRD, VED, or EHD, like feel free to go to our specific websites. Like I said, if you sign up by the end of day today with Election Hero Day, you'll get the toolkit right in your inbox tomorrow. But otherwise, it'll be on our website as well. I would just also generally say to follow all of our orgs on social, because we continuously uplift all materials, sign up forms, any like additional webinars that we're hosting. Civic Holidays is actually hosting a webinar in a few weeks, all about how to engage with national, local media sources as well as social media. So like there's a ton of amazing information out there. So feel free to just sign up and I'll pop the link right now.
I guess because I'm like the odd man out, I'm an organization and not a, not a civic holiday. We amplify these civic holidays with our ladder of engagement with our organization. So for us, it's if you want to become a partner or if you want to volunteer, I posted that in the chat. That gets you all the information of the initiatives that we're doing to highlight and amplify these moments that are happening throughout the civic holidays.
And Cheyenne, anything to add?
No, I think we have covered it. We are super excited to pass the torch to the civic holidays. So after Tuesday, September 17th, there's a big hurrah because we'll also be participating in the Party to the Polls. And then we will be gearing up for GOTV. And obviously we have a big year ahead of us with a lot of, or a few months ahead of us with a lot of education that needs to happen around the down ballot. So we'll definitely be doing some partnerships and webinars to make sure that folks feel informed and confident to have these conversations with voters.
Right. And Florence asked a very good question. We posted a lot of links in the chat. So how are you going to get all of them? So in our follow-up, we can make sure that those links are also shared in the connection as well. I see another question here. What about and I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, but what about those who are re-entering from incarceration in time for elections? Who gets to those individuals and any partnerships? So I guess, are there any partnerships that specifically focus on that population?
I just created a really awesome partnership with the Sentencing Project. They are a research and advocacy for reform organization, and they're doing a lot around voting rights and voting advocacy. So the Sentencing Project is who you should connect with.
Perfect. And I also see Thaddeus posted all the links will be emailed out. And again, I know we posted a lot of them. And then I see here Sean asked a question. Is it okay to post a sample ballot up in the lobby of an apartment building?
I mean, like with our volunteers, we explain to them like permission, permission, permission. So, if you don't have permission or you're just posting it and it's not like a community board, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, it's great to inform folks, but also everyone's ballot looks different. Ballots are based off of districts, they're based off of precincts, they're also based off of people's party affiliation. So you would have to print the whole ballot for both parties, Republican, Democrat, and Independent. And then you would have to do each district. So like maybe there's a school board in District 1 that has a candidate, and I live in District 1, but you printed the ballot for somebody who lives in District 6 and they don't have a school board candidate on the ballot. So I think more so it's give them the information to how to go look up their ballot and encouraging people to go look up their ballot versus like actually accidentally giving out misinformation because you thought you were doing a service, but it actually doesn't really reflect what everyone's actually voting for or on, both.
Better yet, have a celebration in one of your common rooms and bring people together for an event where you can share this information face to face. It's a great opportunity to make sure that you're not just assuming people will know what to take away from a sample ballot, but have a real chance to answer their questions in person. Billy, you're muted.
I'm muted, right? It had to happen at least once. My final question that I have for each of you is, what is one thing that you want people to take away? If there's one thing that someone takes away in this group, what is that one thing?
Down ballot elections.
When you vote early, things like long lines, busy schedules, last minute problems can't stop you from sharing your voice.
Election heroes are the people that power our democracy. They're the people that power our elections, and they're our own community members who deserve gratitude, especially in the busiest season of their year.
You are the trusted voice in the community. So you should empower and amplify messages to your community because they actually trust you first, and reach out to your friends, families, and neighbors to encourage them, 1, to get registered to vote, 2, celebrate and vote, and also 3, prepare to go vote.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. We're going to move into closing now. I really appreciate your time. And again, if folks have additional questions, all of this information will be sent out in next week's connection. Perfect. Okay, so some closing announcements. Before we officially close, I want to recap some of the opportunities to get involved with Our Homes, Our Votes beyond the webinar series. So this campaign has a network of affiliates, which are nonpartisan organizations that are committed to carrying out the campaign's goals. So we're talking advocacy organizations, direct service providers, resident councils, tenant associations, local governments, and other related organizations are all welcome to become an Our Homes, Our Votes affiliate. And affiliates will be included on a listserv where we regularly share announcements and opportunities that are related to nonpartisan voter engagement. And that includes also receiving invitations to regular office hours where they can workshop their voter and candidate engagement plans, and a post-election virtual affiliates gathering, and some enhanced access to Our Homes, Our Votes tools and resources. So if you are interested, Florence, you're going to be really excited. We're posting yet another link in the chat to become an affiliate if you all are interested. And I think we can go to the next slide. Another crucial thing that I would be remiss to miss is making sure that everybody knows about TurboVote, which is our one-stop shop where voters can register to vote They can update their voter registration, check their voter registration status, sign up for election reminders, and find nonpartisan election information for their community. So it's a super, super helpful tool. And again, we'll drop the link to that in the chat. This is a really good way to promote voter registration in your networks, both online and in person. And again, similar to what Cheyenne did, you can also scan the QR code right here to sign up. And if you have any questions about best practices for using TurboVote, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help. The other thing to note is that this is in both English and Spanish. And the Our Homes, Our Votes website has a comprehensive resource library with tools and templates that you can use to launch your own nonpartisan voter and candidate engagement work. So I would assume that a lot of the links we posted in the chat today are probably already on that website. And this year we're constantly updating and adding to the resource library. So we'll flag new resources that we post during these webinars. And we'll make sure that everything that we're posting in terms of links and websites and resources is also included in that resource library. So I highly recommend checking out the Our Homes, Our Votes toolkit for all the most essential resources bundled into one place. And you can find it here at this website. And our next webinar is going to take place Monday, September 16th. So a little less than 2 weeks away at 2:30 p.m. and is going to focus on the topic of nonpartisan voter education. And so this webinar is going to cover the essential aspects of a nonpartisan voter education campaign that encompasses the who, what, when, where, why, and how of voting. Including the stakes of voting for housing justice, which I think all of us in this room really care about. And I think we can go to the next slide. Yep, you can check out a description of next week's webinar. I guess it would be the week after next. And descriptions for the entire series on the Our Homes, Our Votes website. And you can also find the recordings, slides, and links from all the past webinars on that same page. So, all that being said, that brings us to the end of today's webinar with 2 minutes to spare. Again, I want to give a big round of thank you and applause to our panelists for being here today. I got a lot out of all of this information and really appreciate your time. And with that, we will see you at the next webinar.